All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to be unpacking the new development bank. You've probably heard it called the BRICS Bank. We're going to look at its pretty ambitious goal to really shake up the world of international finance.
And hey, that's not just some small claim. When a Nobel Prize winner like Joseph Stiglitz says something is a fundamental change in global power, well, you know you've got to pay attention. This quote really just sets the stage for how big of a deal the NDB's arrival actually is.
So, what problem was this bank even created to solve? Well, for decades, a lot of the world's emerging economies felt that the big financial institutions, the World Bank, the IMF, they were pretty much dominated by Western powers. The NDB was their answer to that, a way to get their own voice and a new source of capital.
So let's be clear, what is the NDB? It's what's called a multilateral development bank. You can just think of it as a special kind of bank, one that's owned by a whole group of countries. And it has one core mission: funding big projects to help developing nations grow.
You know, what's really wild is just how fast this all came together. The idea gets floated by India in 2012, and by 2015, the bank is officially up and running. A year later, it's already funding projects. I mean, that kind of speed, from just an idea to a full-blown reality, it just shows you how serious the political will was behind this thing.
Okay, so we know why it was created, but what about how it was built? Let's take a look under the hood at its design. The founders, that's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, were absolutely determined to build a structure that was just fundamentally different from the old guard.
And they backed up that ambition with some serious money. The bank started out with an authorized capital of $100 billion. To put that into perspective, that is a massive war chest to start with. It instantly made the NDB a major financial player and sent a clear signal to the world that this was no small experiment.
This brings us to how control is structured, which is really hardwired right into the bank's DNA. There's this super crucial rule in its founding documents. The founding BRICS members' share can never, ever drop below 55%. This basically guarantees that no matter how many new countries join up, the original founders will always have majority control.
And this right here, this illustrates the key difference in how it's run. In a lot of the traditional institutions, your voting power is basically tied to how much money you put in. More money, more say. But at the NDB, the founding members all have equal votes. The huge outcome of this? No single member has veto power. It's designed to be a more balanced, more cooperative way of making decisions.
So we've seen the structure, but what does the bank actually do with all that money? Its mission is laser-focused on funding infrastructure and sustainable development projects.
The bank's mandate is pretty broad, but also very targeted. Its investments go into the absolute building blocks of a modern, sustainable economy. We're talking everything from clean energy and digital networks to the really essential stuff like clean water and sanitation. And this chart gives us a little snapshot of where the money was flowing back in 2018. A massive 34% went into transport and water projects, so think highways in India or sanitation systems in Brazil, which are just huge priorities for these rapidly growing nations. Social infrastructure and clean energy weren't far behind, which really shows a clear focus on the real-world needs of its members. The bank is really putting its money where its mouth is.
Now, the NDB was never meant to be some kind of exclusive club. Right from the very beginning, the plan was always to expand its membership and grow its influence way beyond just the original 5 founding countries.
And that plan really kicked into gear starting in 2021. That's when the bank started bringing in new members like Bangladesh, the UAE, and Egypt. This expansion is absolutely critical for its long-term growth because it diversifies its investments and extends its reach across different continents.
So what does the NDB's impact on the world stage look like today? Well, it's really a story of both incredible promise and, the unavoidable dangers of trying to navigate a super complex geopolitical world. From one point of view, the bank is seen as a really positive force. China's former premier, Li Keqiang, called it a helpful supplement to the existing system. This view doesn't see the NDB as a rival, but more like a partner that's helping to fill in some critical funding gaps.
But the bank just can't escape real-world politics. In March 2022, it had to make a really tough call. It paused all new projects in Russia, one of its own founding members. The official reason was sound banking principles. But this move really highlighted the huge challenge for a bank that was built on cooperation between these powerful and sometimes competing nations. It was a pretty stark reminder that global events can force your hand and strain the very partnerships the bank was designed to create.
And that kind of brings us to our final question, right? The NDB was born out of a desire for an alternative, but it often works in partnership with the very same institutions it was supposed to challenge. So what's its ultimate destiny? Is it a revolutionary new force, or is it just a powerful new piece of the existing puzzle? That's really the big question at the heart of its future.